Oh hi, I'm jumping in first. I know I don't usually make an appearance at the beginning of the video, but this week's video is just so exciting because I'm doing a collaboration with Ashley and Steven of Hinson's Home Furnishings here on YouTube. I will link them down below, their video for this. We did a box swap. So what we had to do was use everything in the box to create a piece. We can add stuff to it because you don't know if there's going to be repairs needed or anything like that. But we did have to use everything that they sent, everything that we sent to each other on the piece. So I did. So if you want to see what we got and what happens here, just keep on watching. Welcome to this week's bonus piece. So this was a jewelry armoire I picked up based off of what I got sent in the box that Ashley and Steven sent me. I did have a little issue with the top. It's missing some pieces. This is actually just particle board with veneer over the top, so it's nothing too crazy, but I do love these standing armoires. I think they're really cool, and they actually come up quite frequently in my marketplaces, so it was pretty easy to find. So to start off, I'm just making the repairs that need to be made. The hinge had popped out because, again, like I said, this was particle board and the back kind of had split open. So I'm just going to re-glue that together, of course, with the screws out, and get it fully secured and back the way that it needs to be so that I have something good and solid to reattach the top to. There were just a couple spots that needed some wood filler, so I went ahead and did those real quick as well. These, of course, were the teeniest of tiny screws, so I had to get into my little stash and find a very, very small head to my drill so I could get it out, because I didn't have a handheld screwdriver that was that small. So that's why I'm using my power drill. I usually never use that. I always think it's easier to remove hardware by hand with just a regular screwdriver, but these guys were itty bitty. And then, of course, I'm going to give it a good clean with my Chalk Mountain cleaner. And then I will just go ahead and prime it with the 123 primer in gray, because you guys know that's my favorite. All right, so first item in the box was this stunning tissue paper with this huge peacock on it. And this was the thing that gave me the idea for getting a jewelry armoire, because I was just a little terrified of doing a peacock piece. I didn't know I was just looking, I'm like, oh my goodness, what is so fancy that I can put a peacock on? I'm like, you know what? Jewelry's fancy. And that's where this whole thing, it's coming off of this paper. So I chose my favorite parts of it for the top because I knew I wanted, when you opened the very top area that has the mirror in it, I wanted that to be like a huge kind of wow moment. So I made sure I put my favorite part of the peacock on that spot, and then everywhere else I just kind of filled in with it. So I was really, really pleased with this. I was very surprised she sent it to me because I'm like, oh, what am I going to do with a peacock? So anyways, I'm getting this on here. You guys know I just do a general shape, a general cutout. I want it to be a little bit wider than the surface area that I'm applying it to. And then I kind of just work off of that. Of course, I'm applying it with my Chalk Mountain Satin Poly. It's my favorite thing to apply any decoupage paper with. So I just pull out whatever brush I'm using and apply it to the surface that I'm going to be attaching the paper to, and then stick the paper on, and then I can kind of slide it, swipe it over, and get it going. So as you can see, I just do one little strip there, and then I can add on the rest. So I'm working kind of in sections. And now that's going to hold it still there. I know that it's lined up because I just did that one strip and it's going to hold it. And now I don't have to worry about it lining up with the rest of the piece. So keep in mind when you're doing something like this, like I left the mirror in there, and then I'm going to cut out the center part after it's already applied down. Sometimes this is easy to do, sometimes it's not, depending on the papers that you're using. This is a very thick tissue paper, so it's pretty easy to do. But remember when you are working with wet paper and dry paper at the same time, so like the center part that has the mirror there is dry, so it's not changing shape like the wet paper is. So that's just something you have to think about. If you don't think you'd be comfortable cutting this out or working with paper that is wet and dry, then you can just cut it out and try and fit it exactly to size before you apply it. I, however, don't like doing that because I don't like having to line everything up exactly right. I find that this is just a little easier for me. So taking my blade, cutting it now. Now, if you're going to cut a long paper that has the potential to tear because it's wet, you need to use a really, really sharp blade. And again, I wouldn't use this with traditional tissue paper. That's the very, very thin kind, but this is much thicker, so I know it's a little bit safer to do this on it. Really, really thin tissue paper would, I swear that stuff tears just by looking at it. And once I get everything all settled in around the edges there, I can go back in with more poly and go over the top of it with it. So if there's anything left around the mirror, I can get that later once it dries. I'm not too worried about it. It's just essentially cutting out all the dry pieces so that it's not staying still while the wet is expanding and contracting and all that. So that's why I cut it out instead of just leaving it to dry and cut it after it's dry. But I can go back and perfect everything, such as around the entire piece and then around the mirror if I need to later on. And of course, I had to put some of this inside the little doors that open up because I just wanted everything to be so fun inside. Like it'd just be so normal on the outside, and then every time you open something, it was just exciting. So I'm cutting out more of the tail and putting those on the inside doors there just to, you know, make it exciting. And this, of course, is the same process, only it's a little easier because there isn't a mirror in the center of these. What I'm doing is just cutting out the little magnetic latch portions right there because I don't want paper over that because I want the latches to work perfectly. And they would probably still be fine with paper on them, but I didn't want them to wear over time. So I just thought it would be a cleaner look to cut out the latch portion as well as the hinges. So that's what I'll do with these. That's the only difference in application. Now, Ashley and Steven are Wise Owl retailers, so this is the paint that they sent me. They sent me 3 colors, and this first one is called Atomic Blue. Oh man, it is atomic. So it's the color that I chose to put on the outside of the piece. I felt like it was the safest. I was so scared of these, but she did such an amazing job of choosing colors that went so well with the papers. They were perfect and terrifying all at the same time. So if you like this paint in these colors, you can actually visit Ashley and Steven's page and you can get all that stuff from them. As you know, I am sending them Chalk Mountain stuff because I'm a Chalk Mountain brand ambassador. So it was very interesting using another paint that you're not really used to because they all work kind of different. And so I felt like I wasn't very good at this paint. It did go on very smoothly, but it is much different than Chalk Mountain. Okay, so third thing out of the box. So far we've got tissue paper, paint, and now these wood U bends. And I've been so wanting to try wood U bend for the longest time, but it's hard for me to justify it. So I just usually, you guys know I make all of my own stuff. I do my own tissue paper, I make my own molds, I do all the things myself just because I like things to be inexpensive. So I was really, really excited to get to try these. They're so fun to use. They do get like super bendy and flexy and melty when you heat them up, and it was very exciting to get to use them. So I figured out the best placement for these was just on the top of the box, and I applied them before I applied paint on the top. That way they would all look like they were supposed to be there. And they applied just like any other mold. So, easy peasy. Now we're going to do the shot of the paints where you can actually see how vivid these colors are and why I was so terrified of them. So for the sides, I decided to use the green and the aqua color, and I blended them together to kind of create this really, really fun pop of color once you open the drawers. And oh, the drawers are they're going to get better than this. But this was just really fun, and I wanted this to pop through. And of course, like I said, we had to use everything in the box. So I was just like, okay, how am I going to do all of these things at once? And now, like, looking back after it's been a bit, I'm like, man, I could have, like, really stepped outside my comfort zone, but I was just being a chicken. And then for the outside, because I have to do a decent blend on the outside as well, I went over, like I said, we just have the base coat of the blue on the outside. And then for the second coat, I added a whole other layer. And then I blended in that really rich green and just kind of gave it a hint of something, which turned out really, really lovely. And then, of course, I used the lightest color to just highlight the middle ever so slightly.
I then repeated that process over the entire piece wherever I felt like it needed it. So the sides, the insides, anywhere where I was like, oh, I just need some extra depth and dimension, I added it there and did the exact same process. All right, next step out of the box that I had to use was the stencil. And I'm like, oh, easy peasy. She also included, it's not gold leaf, it's more of like a copper or rose gold leaf. Oh, so I just saw that and I saw the stencil and was immediately like, I already know what I'm doing with this. It's going to be awesome. So I just took my spray adhesive, I sprayed it through the stencil, and then I just lay the metallic sheets over the top and make sure that they're pressed down. I try not to waste any, but just know that if you're going to do this, you're going to have waste. You're going to have like little bits of it flying around everywhere. You just do it because it looks incredible and it's worth it. So this again is on the inside part of the drawers. So you'll see the blend coming through once everything is removed. So I just put it on, take off the excess, make sure it's pressed down firmly, and then I'll take a brush and kind of rub it over to buff off the excess that's not stuck from the spray adhesive. This initial brush I thought would be fine. It wasn't stiff enough, so you do want a slightly stiff brush. Not anything too stiff because then it'll tear off all of the leafing, but you do want something a little bit more firm than what I was using here, just to be able to pick it up and scrape it away. And I'll tell you, it is so satisfying seeing everything come through and just, oh, it's so lovely. And gold leaf, well, copper leaf, rose gold leaf, it's just so shiny. Like nothing can beat that shine. And we're just going to do the same process on all the other drawers. I'm kind of speeding this up by putting 3 drawers next to each other, spraying the adhesive just like on the one drawer, and it's the exact same process, but now I'm doing 3 drawers instead of one at a time, which makes far more sense. And last but not least is this Wisel furniture salve. So this stuff smells incredible. It doesn't say you can seal anything with it. It just says it was kind of a wood refresher and things like that. So I didn't seal this piece in this, but I did put it all over the inside of the drawers and the back, any place that was still left wood. It does get a film over the top of it, which is very common with any wax that you use. So you just peel that part off and then you can just apply it, and it worked really well for what it is. And that piece smelled amazing for days. So that's good to know. Now to seal this piece, I used my chalk mountain wax in emerald just to kind of teal up the blue a little bit and enhance the green that was already in it. So that's what I sealed it with, and it just turned out so, so beautiful. This is just an easy scrub it on, wipe it back, good to go. Now for the hardware, I just made sure it was clean, reattached, and then added some copper gilding wax to it just to match the copper foils that are on the inside of the drawers.
Oh hi, Taryn here. with elegant upgrades. And what do you guys think? Isn't it so, so pretty? I was just terrified to do a peacock piece. I have wanted to for a while, but they're just, I mean, they're kind of extreme. And I was worried about selling and all that stuff. So we'll see what happens in that regard, but I think it just turned out so, so pretty. And I kept it kind of subtle, like you just kind of get Easter eggs. So it just looks like a subtle blend on the outside, but then you get all the fun stuff on the inside, and all the drawer sides are done, and the top is just awesome. So I just want to say a quick thank you to Ashley for doing the exchange with me. I just thought this was so fun, and like one of the hardest parts about starting a project is figuring out what you're gonna do with it. For me, sometimes things will just sit for months because I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. But this kind of was like, she gave me the stuff and I'm like, oh, I don't have anything in here. So I'm like, you know what this would be great with? A jewelry armoire. So I went and picked one up, and it was just kind of fun to do something in an order that I don't typically do it in. So I'm just very, very thankful that I got to do this, and I really hope to do more box swaps. I just think they're so much fun. Again, it's just different than what you're usually used to doing because you have no choice. You have to use everything in the box, and that's kind of exciting, you know? So, okay, thanks so much for all of you guys. I just adore you, as you know, always so thankful for you. And I'll get you some photos now. All right, see you next.